What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Couple Things.
With Shawn and Andrew.
Today's episode is all about pruning.
That's right. Pruning. Another title for this episode could have been Necessary Endings in Life.
But that is a book title.
That is a book title. We actually had the opportunity to sit down and interview Dr. Henry Cloud and his wife, Tori,
Yes.
who wrote a book called Necessary Endings. And I read that book about 2 years ago. And I would say this philosophy shaped our strategy and approach in 2024 and still has trickle effects in 2025. But Shawn and I are both operating with the default of starting a lot of things. I think we both like to start a lot of things. Yeah. You don't? Are you saying you don't?
I think I tend to start a lot less than you.
That's probably fair.
Yeah.
But the side effect of that is maybe not seeing everything through that I start, or maybe not doing everything with as much excellence as each thing might deserve.
Because you probably don't have the bandwidth to.
That's right. Also, kind of this unending busyness. And so anyway, I read this book. I'm grateful to have read it. And I hope today's episode is a collective understanding and exploration of what it means to prune something and why and when to do that. Because I think, when you ask someone, how you doing? And they're like, busy. Everyone kind of has this thing of, well, are you busy with the things that you want to be doing? So I'm excited to talk about this. Shawn, I think you're a little less excited.
I am. I think this has been scripted for 2 years and we just brush over it. But you know what? I am excited to have this conversation today.
Why don't you want to talk about endings?
I don't think it had anything to do with endings. It just seemed boring, if I'm being honest.
Honestly, I think that's actually really enlightening.
Yeah.
I'm being super serious. I think that's a great place to start our conversation because it's not boring?
What?
Starting something new.
Agreed.
Okay.
But you know what? After we do stop something, I move on.
Because of the boring feeling.
Yeah.
And then my point here is that is an indicator of maybe something needs to be pruned.
Maybe. Are you going psychologist mode on
No.
I will say this. 2 years ago, I feel like is when we really buckled down.
I like it.
Yeah. On the pruning idea and concept.
Okay.
2 years ago, we were sitting down doing our goals for the year. And it was the first time we looked at all of our goals from the year before and everything that we had written down. And we're like, you know what? It's too much. And not because we didn't love all of it and not because we weren't like fully excited about all of it, but because it was just too much. We weren't operating at like a high elite level across the board. We were having to sacrifice time with our kids and time with our family. And we were like, you know what? We got to cut some stuff out.
Yeah. And we would be missing time with our kids for stuff that we would walk away from and be like, that was not worth it.
Yeah.
Or like a business meeting and thinking that was not worth it. Or the launch of a new thing that just didn't do what we needed it to in order for it to be worth it for us to miss a night with our kids or whatever. And I feel like for me, we were operating at a high RPM.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had a third kid and we tried to maintain that same operational level and juggling all these different balls. And the third kid just made us hit a brick wall. And so something had to give. It was like, honestly, a fork in the road, choosing our priorities of like, hey, are you going to outweigh ambitions over parenting and family or vice versa? I'm super grateful that we hit that point. It was definitely painful. It sent us to marriage counseling, and ending things is also painful inherently. The conversations you have to have with whatever party, or just like the ego check of like, man, this didn't work out. But it's honestly been super good because there is this concept called the Pareto's principle, 80-20, where it's like 20% of the activities that you do reap 80% of the reward, and the remaining 80% only reap 20%. So I think about that, and it's like, why don't we just do the things that matter the most? And then maybe we can at some point have some margin in our schedule, in our life, in our mental capacity. Like we're not always preoccupied with, oh shoot, I have to call this person, or I forgot to do this task or whatever. And just focusing on the 20% of things that give us 80% of the reward, fully knowing that we are giving ourselves a 20% haircut on whatever that means, whether that's fun activities or income or whatever. Like, you have to define enough, right? You have to define what your goals are, what your vision for your life is, for your family, for your marriage. And then there's a cost to everything. So it's like, if I want a great marriage, I realized I'm going to have to sacrifice 4 hours a week of our 25 hours of childcare time to go to marriage counseling, because that matters, you know?
Mhm.
Um, and that's been really pivotal for us to approach things more like, no, what we did functionally was like listed out all of the different projects that we had. And we put the revenue numbers to each of them. We put the time cost to each of them. How many nights does that cause us to travel? And we said, okay, this one's worth it. This one's not. This one's worth it. This one's not. And we cut over half of them down.
We did.
And not fun. That was not fun. But like, I'm super glad we did that. Otherwise, you just start stacking all these things. And that's not a good place to be.
It's interesting. A lot of people have asked us questions over the course of the past 2 years of like, what happened to your kid's toy company, and where did the coffee go, and where did Family Made, for pretty much the whole entity, where did that go? And all of that was like part of this pruning process to us.
Yeah.
It was where can we invest our time to have it be the most meaningful, the most productive, and still give us the largest return in time with our kids.
Yeah. And some of those things morph, some of them just fully die.
Why
But
was that so hard for you?
it's like a little bit of conflict avoidance of like, hey, we can't work together anymore. Those conversations are not fun. You're way better at those than I am. 2, it is humbling to think like, man, this didn't work out for whatever reason. Like, the coffee is actually going really well.
Yeah.
That was going really well. And then it was like, well, it doesn't make sense for us to do it anymore for multiple reasons, this being one of them. And it's like an ego thing.
Interesting.
For me, it's like, I guess I expect anything that we do to go really well, which is just not reality. And that's nobody's experience. But you fail, like, honestly, failing in the NFL like I did, and then establishing our footing in the way that we have, I guess I kind of thought that the failure was in my rear view mirror. And I was like, oh, I've learned all the lessons I need to. Kind of like subconsciously, I thought that. But then you get another dose of failure. You're like, dang, here we are again. What did I do wrong? What did I not learn? So that's why it was hard.
What's your relationship with failure like?
I knew this was going to turn into a me episode.
Why?
I've experienced a ton of failure. You know, I have. So I'm grateful for it. I think one reason I'm thankful for faith is like, it really, one of the benefits, it's not the purpose, but one of the benefits is like, it shapes the narrative of good things or bad things, and it puts them in its proper place. And so like, the failures in my mind, the stories I tell myself about them, I think because of the hope that faith brings, is like, dang, if it wasn't for XYZ failures, I wouldn't be where we are today. If it wasn't for me getting cut by the NFL team, I wouldn't have been home with our newborn baby girl when we had her as much as I was, you know? If it wasn't for me not getting any D1 scholarships to play football, I wouldn't have ended up at Vandy. And then
With
that
a
wouldn't,
D1 scholarship.
yeah, it ended up working out though. It's like, hey, it's like a forging process. It's refining, you know? It's like, what's your relationship to failure?
I think it's interesting. I think you and I might have different perspectives because, and this might be coming from your wife. This is a very different direction than I saw this going. But every failure that you tie yourself to, I'm speaking about you specifically, not someone listening. Like the ones you just listed off. are actually massive successes. And it's an interesting psychological thing as to why the perspective you have on them is negative. When I don't see that you got cut from the NFL. You literally played your first accredited season ever. You played the exact amount of games that they told you were going to play. You finished your job, which was the 3 games they wanted you for. And you got to go home an official NFL player to a baby girl. And then you say you didn't get any D1 scholarships. You didn't get any D1 scholarships in your timeline, but you got a D1 scholarship to a very prestigious school.
These aren't...
My point being, when it comes to the pruning process, and even hearing you talk about how 2 years ago when we ended some of these companies and they changed and morphed, it being painful, I think part of the reason even those conversations were hard for you and I is because I saw it so differently. I saw it as we already have defined enough for ourselves, and we have already succeeded, that the pruning process is nothing more than getting rid of things that don't matter to us, because at the end of the day, it's our family. And I mean it in the context of the reason why I bring it up is, 1, stop doing that because you're freaking amazing.
Thank you.
But 2, the pruning process doesn't have to be painful. Getting rid of a business that could have made, say, whatever, millions of dollars could be absolutely, life-changing in such a negative way for someone. Or you can look at it as a positive and say, but it actually gave me the ability to be a present father.
100%. I'm not like staying up at night thinking about these failures, by the way.
They aren't failures,
okay.
Andrew.
I don't think often about them. And I do have this realization of like, man, I'm so grateful for whatever thing that led to this now. In the moment though, it can feel, I'm saying like the week before, the week after, like a gut check, And what I have trouble with is not pruning the bad things or the super bad things or the things that aren't doing anything. It's pruning the things that are good to make room for the things that are the best. And I think that's been one of the blessings of children for my worldview is like, you have to prune a lot.
Yeah.
And you have to prune a lot of good things. We've pruned good friendships, good businesses, good trips. How many? Oh my gosh, we have passed up on some epic opportunities.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of last year's TV show that we could have done. Like bucket list.
It was pre-kids. It was the number one thing Andrew and I wanted to do together.
But it shifts,
which is wild.
It shifts your priority, and it's like you prune that,
Mm-hmm.
So it gets a little confusing at some point. You sometimes can get lost in like, okay, is this the right thing, or should I do this opportunity because it's good for our marriage or whatever? Honestly, I am so grateful for your perspective because you're a little more black and white. You're less conflict avoidant. You make decisions more intuitively and quicker than I do.
Which is not always good. It's just a feeling. I'm like,
no, it's definitely
nope.
It's definitely not always good.
Yep.
It's definitely not always good. But that's why we're a good team.
Yeah.
But what's your relationship to failure?
I feel like pre-kids, I was paralyzed by the idea of failure. To where I would never set myself up in any way, shape, or form where I could possibly fail.
I agree with that.
And because of that, I did nothing. And I don't mean like nothing, like I was still working, but I stayed in my lane. I stayed in the only thing that I knew I was good at and what I could succeed at. And I felt so handcuffed to like doing things that I didn't love because I had all these dreams and aspirations to do more. But I was paralyzed by it. Post kids, I don't care at all, which I think is funny.
One thing Shawn and I are always trying to do, especially with everything we've got going on a day-to-day basis, is eat clean and fuel our bodies in a way that actually supports how we want to feel. We're pretty health conscious people, wouldn't you say, babe?
I think for sure. And that's why we're big fans of high protein, zero sugar snacks like Chomps. We love that they use real, thoughtfully sourced ingredients like 100% grass-fed and finished beef, antibiotic-free turkey, and no weird additives or sugars. It's just real protein and spices, which is really rare to find.
Protein is in too right now, babe. Protein is in. And if getting enough protein is important to you like it is for us, each Chomp Sticks has over 10 grams of protein and 0 grams of sugar.
Yes, it does.
Whether we're headed to the gym, chasing kids, or running between meetings, it's a kind of snack that keeps us going without compromising what we're putting in our bodies or leaving us feeling, sluggish.
Yeah. Our office is always stocked with every kind of Chomp Stick out there, but our team's favorite is currently the jalapeno beef. We keep them in the car, gym bags, even the diaper bag, because let's be honest, life doesn't slow down and we get hangry. I get hangry. So if you're looking for a high quality protein snack that actually tastes good, Chomps is where it's at. Get 15% off plus free shipping on your next order of Chomps meat sticks at chomps.com with code Shawn.
Again, that's code Shawn for 15% off plus free shipping at chomps.com. CHOMPS.com. Your singular focus, your number one priority is
Our
kids and family. Yeah. I agree with that. With what I've seen in you.
Yeah. But it's almost made failure. Like there are certain things going on in our lives right now that we'll share at some point. And we've had people weigh in and be like, "But what if you fail?" And it's like, you know what? I literally don't care. Because at the end of the day, I have succeeded at the highest peak and point in life, meaning I have my kids and my family. So there is nothing that I could fail at outside of those two things that would ever be a failure to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love your...
If I fail at being a parent or a wife, that is terrifying to me.
It's also way harder to define and also goes phase by phase and child by child. And it's like...
Yeah,
what's appropriate or successful today might feel like failure tomorrow.
for sure.
Kid. But I also had the thought, do you think you just feel that way? Do you think you have freedom to feel that way because of the past successes that you've had where you're like, hey, I've achieved my dreams and whatever that means. And so I really am good with that part of myself.
I don't think so.
What is it then?
I think because of my past, because of winning an Olympic medal, actually the pressures on me to do more and succeed again is actually exponentially higher. I think the pressures I have from the outside world to like constantly be achieving something is very high. I think I've just learned firsthand after being on a podium of that size that I will never make anybody happy. I will never make everybody happy. I will never live up to an expectation of the entire world. So to a certain extent, I live in the world's eyes of failure. And I don't mean that to be like dramatic. I mean that to be like in a certain category of life, I will always be letting someone down. But at the end of the day, the only thing I really care about are you and our kids. So if I focus in on that, everything else just seems silly.
Yeah, but you still do a great job with your work. So you do a great job balancing.
I don't mean because of all of that, I can't still have aspirations to like achieve things. I just know at the end of the day, I have to make sure that everything you and I are actively choosing to pursue is for us.
Yeah, you do a great job with that. And honestly, this is the fact that there's two perspectives
Yeah.
in our marriage and in our family. I used to think that was like so friction inducing and it would cause so much conflict of like, why don't you want to do this? Or why do you want to end this? And now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful. And that's been one interesting thing about getting older. We're 33, so not that old, but like, um, you start to feel the wear and tear of whatever the thing is you're dragging out, or you start to see even you have the timeline to see that, hey, this actually is the best thing over time that I've seen, or this thing has been going on for 5 years and it needs to end.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just have a little more clarity on situations as you look back. And now we've experienced enough how valuable it is to prune things that I feel positive momentum in doing more of that in the future. But should we define what the term pruning is?
Define, and then I also want to go into a little like go back and forth. Pruning can be anything. It can be habits, it can be daily choices, routines, rhythms, business opportunities, jobs, people in your life. It can be anything. So after you define it, I want to go back and forth and just start listing things that we have pruned.
Okay, so just like in gardening where we cut away the dead or overgrown parts of plants to help them grow better, pruning in our life is all about getting rid of the things that don't benefit us or are taking too much energy away from what matters the most. Again, thinking about what actually matters the most in your life is a really important exercise there and can be pretty intangible and seem overwhelming, but it's worth doing.
So to give you tangible examples that you can like reflect on as you listen, things that we have pruned out of our life, I would say alcohol.
Yeah, we used to hit wine pretty good.
We did.
And
I'd say maybe
twice a month, maybe.
Yeah.
One glass. We usually split a glass now.
Yeah.
Dude, we used to put
a bottle down, which sounds bad.
Like, 2 or 3 times a week before having kids. And then we just realized the physical cost of that. It would make us more irritable. It'd make us more tired. And then we're like, what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
So it would make us sleep worse.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one thing. Last year, I was like super competitive oriented and spent a lot of time training for things and traveling to things to compete in. I don't know why. And I feel like that's been pruned in my mind. And so now I've like settled into training way less, realizing that enough for me looks like 45 minutes, 4 or 5 days a week. And I don't need to be the strongest I've ever been. And I don't need to be, logging world records or whatever. Actually, would still love to do that, but I've pruned it.
Something else we pruned, and this sounds like a double negative kind of, but not going to church on Sundays.
I like how you phrased it.
We used to, would wake up on Sundays and be like, oh, how's everyone feeling? Are we tired? Is it? And we said, nope, no longer. We go to church every Sunday.
Yeah.
Not an option unless we're sick. But
we've pruned. Yeah, we mentioned some of the business projects.
Teddy and Bear, Unicorn Coffee, Family Made Production, or Family Made Podcasts.
Podcast side of things, yeah. Subscription boxes.
Yeah.
There's more. I can't.
Bunch of investments.
Yeah. Yeah. Prune that. I would say we pruned. This is more higher level, but like this idea that we need to be in charge of everything.
Yeah.
Kind of. And that's been a really wonderful thing to actually welcome more of a team around us. It's a struggle because you want to, I guess part of me still wants to like control everything, but it's like, no, this is actually way more fun. So pruning that desire I have has been good. I've pruned sweets nutritionally.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. We've pruned a lot of social events and late nights. I mean, Shawn and I go to bed at 8:30, and there'll be like hockey games that we could go to, or hey, do you want to come hang out at the neighbor's house? We've pruned that because it makes room for other things in our life.
Mm-hmm. There's been a lot. It feels like it almost feels hard to remember a lot of them because pruning things, I do feel like it becomes so beneficial to your life that you don't even remember what you're getting rid of because it helps so much.
Now we're at a point where I pretty much wake up every day excited.
I know. I don't want anything to change.
Right. Because we've pruned the nonsense away, and it's like, okay, our schedule is full of things that we feel like are meaningful, things that get us closer in our marriage and to our family, and then like bring us closer to our community, bring us closer to the Lord. Yeah. So every day is like really fun and exciting. I am curious how you would describe when something gets pruned. How does that conversation go at our house? Just give like a rough, this is your position on it. This is my reaction to it. We had a discussion like this the other night.
And it didn't end well. I think it's a give and take. I think we can feel like we're at different capacities at different phases in life. And different, we might be prioritizing different things at different times. And I don't mean like our top priorities ever change, but I think it's just always a conversation. I think you and I are constantly bringing up to each other, what does this week look like, or next week? How are we doing with parenting? How are we doing in our marriage? How are we doing with relationships? How are we doing? And trying to identify, is there any anything either of us are seeing that we aren't agreeing with or liking or thinking is good? Trying to constantly balance the scales.
I would say the conversation usually goes like, I come to you and I say, this is stressing me out.
Yep.
And then you say, pretty much verbatim,
Get rid of it.
let's kill it.
Yeah.
And
And
then
you're like,
I push
no.
back for probably an hour or so. Yeah. And then we usually end it, I feel like. Usually. But
I do think you have more inclination to hold on to things. I don't.
well,
I'm like chop chop.
This is what's interesting. I feel like we are writing a book on commitment and like what is the balance between persevering, pushing through the hard times. Hey, this thing isn't working yet. Or, hey, we're not in a good spot yet.
But I think the question is, what are you committed to?
Yes.
And at the end of the day, I am committed to relentlessly, like you and our family. And you are as well. I'm not saying that, but you do, as like the leader in our family in this realm, you have a priority to like make sure we're set and make sure financials are great and like make sure work is in order. It's a lot more of a priority for you than it is for me. And if we only operated under my system, we probably couldn't pay our mortgage.
It is interesting because I feel like you're more internal focused.
Mm-hmm.
So you are the guardian of the family and marriage time, which is great.
Yes.
And I'm more external focused, which is still really good and important, but definitely should give way, as I see it, to the family stuff. So like a lot of times you're advocating, this isn't good for our family.
Yeah.
Don't smile because of the conversation.
Sometimes you don't see it. Sometimes
but
you
also,
don't see it.
Anyway, it is interesting to think that there is like, sometimes it's good to keep pushing and then sometimes it's not.
Mm.
But what areas of our life do you feel like need the most pruning?
We have a very, very blessed job and we have so many opportunities that come our way. So I think for you and I, we have active conversations on a weekly basis about the opportunities come in, how can we prune them to make sure we're still prioritizing our time with our family?
I mean, we're even talking, we were on a charity event streak there. Like, we would do all these charity events, and it was really fun and it's meaningful work, but that needed to get pruned.
Yeah. It didn't.
So now
It didn't get pruned. We just took our kids with us.
we said 2 travel events a year
Yeah.
for that. Anyway, those are the things where it's like, man, but it's a charity thing. I don't know. It's harder for me to prune those things.
It is.
But like I said, there's side effects of this. Like, I think a more excited approach to the day and what you're doing. There's also, this is a psychological effect. When there's a cost to something, like your buy-in towards it is increased. The IKEA effect we've talked about. So like saying no to something in order to say yes to something increases your dedication to that thing, which is really exciting to think. And so it's like, honestly, even the thing that you're turning down could be a really good thing, but the act of choosing one or the other is the important step. Like, that's the thing that needs to happen in order for any progress to be made. I've also noticed that saying no becomes easier over time. I feel like you get more reps at, like, one, like I said, realizing the benefits of that. And then 2, even the phrasing of like, hey, sorry, I'm already committed to something. Like, being able to say that without guilt. Like, I would always feel guilty turning things down. No, buddy, I can't hang because of XYZ. It's like, hey, I can't hang because we do date nights every Thursday. And we get asked all the time, like, do you feel like your schedule's too rigid and you think you're too structured? And it's like, no. I'm really grateful that our schedule and calendar is like so mapped out, because
it protects us.
It protects it, and it gives me something, like a third thing to point at, where it's not me saying, no, I can't hang out with you, friend, for no reason. It's like, I already have something planned. You know? It's like a little more tangible for
but
me.
You don't need something. You don't need to have something planned to say no.
Look, I'm not freaking perfect. I agree.
You could say, I'm just going to stay home tonight.
I'm so bad at that.
Okay, mamas, real talk. When's the last time you even thought about wearing a push-up bra? For me, it has been forever. After 3 kiddos, comfort is key. And honestly, the idea of underwire and padding just sounded like a hard no. But then Skims sent me their push-up bra, and I was like, wait a second. This is actually so good. It is the only push-up bra I have tried that doesn't feel stiff or overdone. It's soft, super flattering, and gives you that natural lift. Like before kids kind of lift, if you know what I mean. Not bulky, not awkward, just a really great fit that makes you feel confident again. It's nice to have a go-to push-up bra that actually feels good when I want a little extra something. I genuinely love this one. Shop the Skims Ultimate Bra Collection and more at skims.com. After you place your order, be sure to let them know I sent you. Select podcast in the survey and be sure to select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. You got to get better at that.
I have
these little minions that I want to spend my night with.
Well, it's gotten to the point now where honestly less invitations have come in. Like sauna days were always happening, right?
And that's
and then
fine.
you say no to enough of those, and it's like you stop getting. Yeah, no, I don't feel bitter about it. I'm just saying this is my process. I'm sharing the whole journey, you know? So I'll also say we talked about making room for what matters most. We've talked about like this family culture starter pack that Shawn and I have, how we dug into what our family goals are, our mission statement. We came up with a family creed yesterday. I think all of I think all of those things help give clarity to what does matter most. And it's a fun exercise to start working through that. So we'll see if we can include any of that in the show notes. But I would say recommendations on how to put pruning into actions. First, I would say identify what needs pruning. So self-reflect, pray, think about what's working and what's not working in your life. I would say then evaluate And this is something Shawn and I do through like metrics. We'll literally try to quantify everything like you see in our goals. But is this habit or relationship adding value to, I would say, my marriage, my family, and then my life in that order? That's how I would answer it and approach that. And then also listening to your instincts after you listen to your wife would be good.
Mm-hmm.
But if you feel like something is dragging you down, it probably is. Trusting the gut goes a long way. Trusting your wife goes an even further way.
Mm.
But then make a list and write down everything you think might need pruning. Seeing it on paper really can help make you realize how many things you're involved in that you may need to cut out. And we're always, again, this goes back to quantifying everything. Like we'll make a list of all the tasks that we do associated with the project. And then you see like, oh my gosh, this requires actually a lot of things. And you could cut some of those out, or maybe you could delegate some of those tasks. So posting on social media or whatever, you can delegate, right? I would say then figure out your main priorities and decide what's most important to you in the long run and decide what is keeping you from getting there. And then take action and have the conversations that you need to. So you don't have to prune everything at once either. Start with one thing at a time and see the impact that it has. And then that positive momentum will start. And then I would say check in with yourself, your marriage, your family, the parties that you care most about to regularly evaluate how things are going. What I've learned is pruning is not a one-time thing. It is an ongoing process. And I think that this whole exercise can lead to a lot of fruit. So don't let the weeds strangle the fruit. I'm working on analogies. You've been getting there too.
No.
You're trying to do some analogies every now and
They're
then.
not good. I think it's just a beneficial process to constantly be doing.
And I would say we do this like for sure every year with our goals, and then like less formally one other time a year. Or do you think it's constant?
I would say we do this every week, every day.
No, you're right. Our weekly calendar thing. Yeah.
And daily of like, is it too much to do this tonight? Yeah.
Also, the earlier you can prune something ahead of when the thing is supposed to happen, the better. I'm telling you the things that Shawn is telling me.
Yeah.
Don't be making that face to me. Oh man. All right. Do you have any other words of advice or wisdom?
No. Always reflect on what your priorities are and make sure your schedule reflects that.
You're a pro at this. And I think it is one of the qualities that made you such a world champion gymnast, a world champion dancer, a world champion mom, is your ability to do this. I admire this from you. I think you're an expert at it. And I'm glad I could teach you a thing or two.
I'm so glad you could say.
Anyway, all right. Thank you for listening. Curious to hear your thoughts. Did we make any sense on this podcast?
No.
You almost fell asleep, it seemed like.
No.
A lot of yawns going on over there, or maybe it was just you letting me talk so I could figure out this.
You were really going for it.
Thank you. But thank you for listening. If you made it this far, please subscribe to the show. Give it a rating. There's only 74%. No, 74% of the people that listen to the show are not subscribed to it. That's whack. So just press that button.
Nothing happens.
No.
Really, nothing happens.
No. Except for, I've said this before, our commitment to making every episode that happens better than the last.
Yeah.
So that's our commitment. Thank you for listening. That's all we got. I'm Andrew.
I'm Shawn.
Till next time.